Good morning. We begin this Thursday with breaking news from Uptown Charlotte, where emergency crews continue investigating a powerful explosion that destroyed an office building overnight. The explosion occurred shortly after 2 a.m. at a 4-story commercial office building near the city's central business district. Firefighters battled the resulting blaze for several hours before bringing it under control just before sunrise. The building has been declared a total loss, and several nearby businesses sustained damage from the blast and flying debris. Officials say there have been no confirmed fatalities at this time, though several individuals were treated for minor injuries. Search crews remain on scene as structural engineers assess the stability of the remaining portions of the building before a full investigation can begin. Investigators believe a natural gas leak is currently the most likely cause of the explosion. However, authorities caution that the investigation is still in its early stages, and no official determination has been made. Representatives from the Charlotte Fire Department, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and the North Carolina Office of the State Fire Marshal continue examining the scene. Road closures remain in effect throughout portions of the surrounding area as emergency personnel work to clear debris and secure damaged utilities. Motorists are encouraged to avoid the area and use alternate routes while cleanup operations continue. Officials are asking anyone who may have witnessed unusual activity near the building overnight or who has surveillance footage from nearby businesses or residences to contact investigators. While a natural gas leak remains the leading theory, authorities emphasize that all potential causes remain under investigation, and additional information will be released as it becomes available. We'll continue following this developing story throughout the morning. Stay with WBTV News for continuing coverage.
The following message is transmitted at the request of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. A civil emergency message has been issued for portions of downtown Charlotte following the discovery of multiple suspicious packages near several government buildings and public facilities. Law enforcement officers responded shortly after 7:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, after receiving reports of unattended packages in multiple locations within the downtown government district. As a precaution, bomb squads have been deployed to investigate each reported device. At this time, the contents of the packages have not been confirmed, and officials are treating each incident as a credible threat until inspections have been completed. Mandatory evacuations are underway within the immediate vicinity of affected government buildings, and several surrounding streets have been closed to both vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Residents, employees, and visitors should avoid the downtown area unless travel is absolutely necessary, and should follow all instructions issued by law enforcement officers and emergency personnel. Motorists should expect significant traffic delays throughout the central business district, and use alternate routes whenever possible. Public transit service may experience temporary delays or reroutes as emergency operations continue. Members of the public are reminded not to approach or handle any unattended packages, bags, or other suspicious items. If you observe an object that appears unusual or out of place, leave the area immediately and report it to law enforcement. Emergency officials emphasize that this remains an active investigation. Additional protective actions may become necessary if conditions change, or if additional suspicious packages are discovered. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management, the Charlotte Fire Department, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. A chemical hazard warning has been issued for portions of Charlotte following the confirmed release of a highly toxic chemical agent within the Lynx Blue Line light rail system near the Charlotte Transportation Center. Emergency responders have identified the substance as sarin, a hazardous nerve agent capable of causing life-threatening illness through inhalation or direct exposure. Multiple casualties have been reported at the scene, and hazardous materials teams are actively conducting rescue operations, decontamination procedures, and atmospheric monitoring. This remains an active and evolving emergency. Anyone currently within or near the Charlotte Transportation Center, adjacent rail platforms, tunnels, or surrounding evacuation zone should leave the area immediately by moving away from the incident and following all instructions issued by emergency personnel. Do not attempt to enter the affected area for any reason. Residents and businesses outside the immediate evacuation zone are advised to remain clear of the downtown transit district and avoid all unnecessary travel until emergency officials determine the area is safe. Numerous roads surrounding the incident have been closed to facilitate emergency response operations, and public transportation service throughout the Lynx Blue Line has been suspended until further notice. Individuals who believe they may have been present near the affected station at the time of the release and who begin experiencing symptoms such as difficulty breathing, blurred vision, excessive sweating, muscle weakness, or confusion should immediately seek assistance from emergency responders or proceed to a designated medical evaluation and decontamination site as directed by public health officials. Do not enter hospitals or healthcare facilities unless instructed to do so by emergency personnel, as specialized response procedures are in place. Law enforcement agencies are treating this incident as a suspected intentional criminal act. The public is urged to remain calm, avoid the affected area, and allow emergency responders unrestricted access to the scene. Additional emergency messages may be issued as conditions develop. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. A law enforcement warning has been issued for the Charlotte metropolitan area following multiple coordinated criminal incidents believed to be connected to this morning's ongoing emergency. Since approximately 9:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, emergency responders have been dispatched to numerous deliberately set fires involving government buildings, municipal facilities, electrical substations, and other critical infrastructure throughout Charlotte and several surrounding communities. Fire departments remain engaged in suppression efforts at multiple active scenes while law enforcement agencies secure affected areas. Based on evidence collected during the investigation, authorities now believe today's office building explosion, the suspicious packages discovered throughout downtown, the hazardous chemical release within the Charlotte light rail system, and the coordinated arson attacks are part of a single, organized criminal operation. The investigation remains active, and additional incidents cannot be ruled out. Residents are advised to remain alert and immediately report any suspicious persons, vehicles, unattended packages, or attempts to ignite fires by calling local law enforcement. Do not approach individuals engaged in suspicious activity. If you witness a fire or other criminal act in progress, leave the area immediately and allow emergency responders to handle the situation. Numerous road closures remain in effect throughout Charlotte as emergency crews continue responding to multiple incidents. Motorists should avoid all non-essential travel within the metropolitan area and follow all instructions issued by law enforcement officers and emergency personnel. Emergency vehicles require unrestricted access to affected locations. State and federal law enforcement agencies are now assisting local authorities as investigators work to identify those responsible for today's coordinated attacks. Additional public safety measures may be implemented as the investigation continues. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
And while investigators continue processing evidence from multiple crime scenes across the Charlotte metropolitan area, police have not identified any suspects or announced a possible motive behind today's attacks. Officials continue urging residents to remain calm, avoid affected areas, and report any suspicious activity immediately. Emergency crews remain on scene following the chemical release at the Charlotte Transportation Center, while firefighters continue battling several deliberately set fires at government buildings and utility facilities throughout the city. Authorities say there is currently no evidence suggesting an immediate threat outside the affected areas, although residents should continue following instructions from local emergency officials. We have also learned that federal investigators are expected to arrive in Charlotte later this morning to assist local authorities. Officials continue emphasizing that today's incidents appear to be
Good morning. By now, you've begun asking yourselves the same question. Why? You search for answers in your televisions, your governments, your institutions. You believe they understand what's happening. They don't. For years, you built a world that worships comfort, power, and certainty. Today, you learn how fragile they are. We are the Covenant. We did not come seeking your approval. We came to awaken you. This is only the beginning. Open your eyes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appear to have experienced an unauthorized interruption to our broadcast. We are working to determine exactly what just happened. If you are just joining us, our live coverage of today's coordinated incidents was interrupted by an unknown video transmission. At this time, we cannot verify the origin of that broadcast or the identity of the individuals who appeared in it. We want to emphasize that the message you just witnessed was not transmitted by WBTV, our parent company, or any authorized emergency management agency. Engineers are currently investigating the source of the interruption, and we are working with law enforcement officials to determine whether other television stations experienced similar interference. We will continue providing verified information as it becomes available. Please remain with WBTV for continuing coverage of this developing situation.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States Department of Homeland Security, the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management. A civil emergency message has been issued following this morning's series of coordinated criminal incidents throughout the Charlotte metropolitan area and the unauthorized interruption of local television broadcasts. Federal officials have confirmed that the video message broadcast during a live local news program at approximately 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time was not transmitted by any authorized television station, emergency management agency, or government entity. The origin of the unauthorized transmission remains under investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has activated a joint terrorism task force to coordinate investigative efforts involving federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. Investigators are examining possible links between the overnight office building explosion, the suspicious packages discovered throughout downtown Charlotte, the chemical attack at the Charlotte Transportation Center, the coordinated arson attacks targeting government buildings and utility facilities, and the unauthorized television broadcast. At this time, no official motive has been identified, and authorities have not released information regarding the identity of the individuals responsible. Residents are urged not to speculate or circulate unverified information regarding today's events, as doing so may interfere with the ongoing investigation. Law enforcement personnel remain deployed throughout the Charlotte metropolitan area, and additional federal resources continue arriving to assist with public safety operations and evidence collection. Residents should remain vigilant and immediately report suspicious persons, unattended packages, unusual activity, or information that may assist investigators to local law enforcement. Emergency officials emphasize that there is no indication of additional imminent attacks at this time. However, the investigation remains active, and additional emergency messages may be issued should conditions change. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Health Department, and the United States Food and Drug Administration. A food contamination warning has been issued for portions of the Charlotte metropolitan area following the discovery of an apparent intentional contamination incident at a regional food distribution warehouse. Earlier this afternoon, investigators responding to today's coordinated criminal incidents located evidence suggesting that an unknown hazardous substance may have been deliberately introduced into food products stored at a distribution facility serving grocery stores, restaurants, schools, hospitals, and other commercial customers throughout the Charlotte region. As a precaution, all food products distributed from the affected warehouse within the past 24 hours are being placed under an immediate recall while laboratory testing is conducted to determine the nature of the suspected contaminant. At this time, the exact substance involved has not been identified, and investigators have not confirmed whether contaminated products reached retail locations. Residents are advised not to consume any food products identified by public health officials as part of the recall. Grocery stores and food service establishments receiving products from the affected distribution center are being instructed to immediately remove those items from sale and secure them pending further inspection. Anyone who believes they may have consumed a recalled product and begins experiencing unusual symptoms should contact their healthcare provider or local poison center immediately. Public health officials emphasize that no illnesses directly linked to this incident have been confirmed at this time, and these precautionary measures are being taken to protect public safety while the investigation continues. Federal, state, and local investigators are treating this incident as part of the ongoing coordinated criminal investigation. Additional recall information and lists of affected products will be released as they become available. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. A law enforcement warning has been issued for the Charlotte metropolitan area as investigators continue searching for multiple individuals believed to be responsible for today's coordinated criminal attacks. Investigators have identified several persons of interest believed to be associated with a group that identified itself during this morning's unauthorized television broadcast as the Covenant. Based on evidence collected throughout the day, authorities believe several suspects remain at large and may still be operating within the Charlotte region. Law enforcement agencies have established numerous roadblocks and vehicle checkpoints along major highways and primary routes leading into and out of Charlotte, including portions of Interstates 77, 85, and 485, as well as several state highways. Motorists should expect significant delays and should comply with all instructions issued by law enforcement officers. Authorities are seeking information regarding several vehicles believed to have been used during today's attacks. These include a white Ford Transit cargo van, a black Chevrolet Tahoe sport utility vehicle, and a gray Dodge Ram pickup truck. The vehicles may display stolen or altered license plates and should be considered potentially associated with dangerous criminal activity. Residents are urged to remain vigilant and immediately report suspicious persons, vehicles, unattended packages, or unusual activity to local law enforcement. Do not attempt to approach, confront, or detain any individual believed to be connected to this investigation. If you observe any of the described vehicles or believe you have information that could assist investigators, move to a safe location and contact 911 or your nearest law enforcement agency immediately. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies continue conducting coordinated search operations throughout the region. Investigators emphasize that the public's cooperation has already resulted in several valuable leads, and additional information may assist in locating those responsible. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the United States Department of Homeland Security. An administrative message is being issued to provide an update regarding today's coordinated criminal attacks within the Charlotte metropolitan area as of 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. No additional coordinated attacks have been reported since the food contamination warning issued earlier this afternoon. Federal, state, and local authorities continue investigating multiple crime scenes associated with today's incidents, including the overnight office building explosion, the suspicious packages discovered throughout downtown Charlotte, the chemical attack on the LYNX Blue Line light rail system, the coordinated arson attacks targeting government facilities and critical infrastructure, the unauthorized television broadcast interruption, and the suspected food contamination incident. The investigation remains active under the direction of the Federal Bureau of Investigation Joint Terrorism Task Force. Evidence recovered throughout the day continues to be processed, and investigators are pursuing multiple leads regarding individuals believed to be associated with the organization identifying itself as the Covenant. At the request of the Governor of North Carolina National Guard personnel have been deployed throughout the Charlotte metropolitan area to assist local authorities in protecting critical infrastructure, including government facilities, transportation hubs, utility substations, communications centers, and other essential public services. Guard personnel are supporting law enforcement operations, but are not replacing local police agencies. Additional federal resources, including investigators, hazardous materials specialists, public health officials, and emergency management personnel, have arrived in North Carolina to assist with the ongoing response and recovery efforts. Damage assessments, evidence collection, and public health investigations will continue throughout the evening and overnight hours. Residents are encouraged to remain vigilant, but should continue their normal activities where it is safe to do so. Individuals are reminded to comply with any remaining road closures, restricted access areas, and instructions issued by emergency personnel. Authorities continue asking members of the public to report suspicious activity or information that may assist investigators. Emergency officials emphasize that, while the immediate situation has stabilized, the investigation remains ongoing, and additional updates will be provided as new information becomes available. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management for updated emergency information.
Good morning. Recovery efforts continue across the Charlotte metropolitan area this morning following yesterday's unprecedented series of coordinated attacks that left the region shaken and prompted one of the largest law enforcement investigations in North Carolina history. Federal, state, and local officials say progress was made overnight as investigators continued executing search warrants and following hundreds of tips submitted by members of the public. Authorities have confirmed that dozens of individuals believed to be connected to yesterday's attacks have been taken into custody for questioning, while several others have been formally charged with offenses ranging from conspiracy and arson to terrorism-related crimes. Investigators caution, however, that additional suspects remain at large, and the search for those individuals continues. Perhaps the most significant development came shortly after midnight, when federal agents executed a search warrant at a rural property approximately 40 miles northeast of Charlotte believed to have served as the Covenant's primary meeting place. Officials say investigators recovered documents, electronic devices, communications equipment, protective clothing, and other evidence believed to be connected to the organization. The property remains secured as forensic teams continue processing the scene. Authorities have not released additional information regarding the group's leadership or possible motive, citing the ongoing criminal investigation. Federal officials say evidence recovered from the compound will play a critical role in determining whether additional attacks had been planned and whether other members of the organization remain active elsewhere. Meanwhile, recovery operations continue throughout Charlotte. Cleanup crews remain at the site of yesterday's office building explosion, while hazardous materials specialists continue monitoring the Charlotte Transportation Center following the sarin attack. Officials say decontamination operations have been completed, though portions of the transit system will remain closed pending additional safety inspections. Fire investigators also continue examining several government buildings and utility facilities damaged during yesterday's coordinated arson attacks. Public health officials report that the precautionary recall of food products linked to yesterday's contamination investigation remains in effect while laboratory testing continues. At this time, no confirmed illnesses have been linked to the recalled products, though officials continue urging the public to follow recall guidance until testing has been completed. Governor officials praised the coordinated response of local first responders, state agencies, and federal investigators, while thanking residents whose tips helped investigators identify several suspects and locate the Covenant property overnight. Although the immediate threat to the Charlotte area has significantly diminished, authorities remind residents to remain vigilant and report suspicious activity as investigators continue working to locate the remaining suspects. As the city begins the long process of recovery, many questions remain unanswered. Who exactly was the Covenant? How long had the organization been operating? And could yesterday's attacks have been prevented? Those answers will likely emerge in the weeks and months ahead as investigators continue piecing together one of the most complex criminal investigations in the state's history. Stay with WBTV News for continuing coverage as this investigation develops.